The single most important part of your bag that you can get fit for is your irons. These clubs are almost guaranteed to be used on every golf hole that you play. With so many intricacies involved with getting fit for an iron, it's that much more important that you dial in every aspect of it to make sure it's set up the best possible way for your swing. First and foremost, let's talk about what type of iron head you should play. Irons can generally be broken down into three different main categories. You have the game improvement iron, player's distance, and a player's iron. Starting with the game improvement iron. This is a great iron for someone that's around an 18 or higher handicap or is around bogey golf when they play. Sometimes this iron is also a good option if you're outside that range, but it really just depends on what the golfer is looking to accomplish. This iron is generally offset, has a larger top line, and it usually has a bigger overall profile, so the sweet spot is a lot larger. Last but not least, game improvement irons are generally juiced. What that means is they can be up to 5 degrees stronger in loft compared to the traditional loft that you would see in a 7-iron. This allows golfers to get more distance, but paired with the lower center of gravity, it still lets you get the ball up in the air so it doesn't roll out as far. So what's the downside of an iron like this? Well, the biggest downside is you're really not able to be as precise if you like to shape the ball. Due to the construction of this type of club, it's built to be as forgiving as possible, but it's harder for golfers to hit the shot shapes that they want. Next up, we have a player's distance iron. If you're anywhere from a 12 handicap or lower or about 85 or under, this is definitely a great option for you to try. Compared to a game improvement iron, this is going to have a thinner top line, less offset, and a more compact shape overall, leading to a little bit less forgiveness. Generally, you should see a very similar distance compared to the game improvement iron with the player's distance. What is nice about this head type though is you're going to get a lot more control and the ability to shape your shots if you'd like to do so. And with the lesser offset, if you have a tendency to hook the ball or your miss is to the left if you're right-handed, this will help mitigate that and this might actually be a better option. Last but not least, you're going to have the player's iron. This is going to have the least amount of offset, a very thin top line, and a very compact overall shape compared to the other categories. This is definitely going to be the best iron for someone who really wants to shape their shots and get very precise ball flight. Even on a really well-struck shot, you are definitely going to see some distance loss. For myself personally, I see about like 15 yards compared to the other categories. Another thing to mention is that your mishits are going to be extremely unforgiving. So let's talk about the length of the iron. Getting the length correct is absolutely crucial for a comfortable setup and also getting consistent ball contact. Statically speaking, the proper length for your club is going to be based off your height as well as your wrist to floor length. But the thing about golf is what works on paper doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work in real life, which is why it's crucial to test it. So let's say, for example, with a standard length iron, I'm consistently hitting it off the toe. Even though I fit the standard length mold, a slightly longer iron might actually be beneficial for me and help move that strike closer to the sweet spot. Your preferred stance might also change that length. If you prefer to be more crouched over or stand more upright during your golf swing, that might also push you outside of the norm, which is why it's very important to always test it. Aside from the club head, the other major component of an iron fitting is finding the proper shaft. This can definitely be extremely difficult to navigate given how many options there are out there. But the bottom line is you want to find a shaft that helps you deliver the club head to the ball consistently for better results. So generally, the heavier the shaft and stiffer it is, the lower you're going to launch it and less spin you're going to have. The more abrupt and quick tempo you have in your golf swing, the heavier and more stout you want to go in your golf shaft. as this helps maintain the club head position in your downswing and allows it to keep up with your hands. If a player has a smoother transition, they can generally get away with playing a lighter and more flexible shaft. If you're hitting golf shots on the toe, sometimes a heavier shaft can actually help bring that contact closer to the sweet spot. Same thing if you're hitting it off the heel. Sometimes a lighter shaft can help move that towards the sweet spot as well. As far as what shaft flex you should play, the flexes really are a spectrum. What one company might consider a regular flex, another might consider a stiff. But in general, we kind of typically follow these guidelines. So an extra stiff would be 90 plus swing speed, 80 to 90 is a stiff, 70 to 80 for a regular, 65 to 70 for a senior or a light, or under 65 for ladies. Last but not least, you have graphite versus a steel shaft. So typically a graphite shaft is going to be a lot lighter. What this does is it helps increase your club head speed, and it usually also results in a higher launch angle as well as a higher spin rate. Another benefit of a graphite shaft is it's actually a lot easier on one's joints. So if you have any physical ailments, this is definitely an option to consider. So aside from a steel shaft generally being heavier, it also typically gives players better feedback to see where they're striking it on the face relative to a graphite shaft. Another really important thing to get right with irons is the loft of your iron. So like I said earlier, typically a game improvement iron can be a lot lower lofted. So you definitely don't want to hit it so low that it's going to roll out a ton, because then you're losing control. Generally what you want to see if you have high enough swing speeds is you want your landing angle, or the descending angle that the ball is coming down at, to be between 45 to 51 degrees. Sometimes a slower swing speed can't get it up that high with the 7-iron, but typically you want to try and get as close as possible. This also brings up another really important point. Irons are not about distance. They're about control. Who cares if you can hit it 10 extra yards if that's going to roll out 10 extra yards? You want to hit it and stop it as quick as possible to have closer approach shots. One of the last parameters that you definitely want to get right with your irons is your lie angle. And lie angle is basically how the bottom of the club head interacts with the turf at impact. So if you have a tendency to push the ball with your irons, you might actually need a more upright lie angle. And here's why. When your club head interacts with the turf, the toe is going to dig in before the heel side, causing the club head to actually open up at impact. So same thing if your club head is actually too upright, you might need to make it more flat, because the heel is going to be digging in before the toe, closing the club head at impact, causing you to pull those shots or hook the golf ball. Lastly, what type of grip should you choose? So in general, it's best to have very quiet hands and wrists during your golf swing. You don't want to be squeezing the grip super tight, but you also don't want it to be super loose to the point that it goes flying out of your hands. Somewhere right in the middle is the perfect balance of grip pressure. So depending on the size of your hands or your wrist crease to the end of your middle finger, certain sizes of grips might be better versus others. So at the end of the day though, it does always come down to preference and feel. So whatever is giving you the most confidence during your golf swing, that's the grip that we definitely recommend going with. Another thing to point out is that sometimes going to a bigger grip can make it harder to turn over the club. So if you have a tendency to miss to the left, if you're a right-handed golfer, that could help you out in that regard. And same thing vice versa. A smaller grip can generally help a golfer turn the club head over a little bit more, so that might help mitigate a slice, for example. So that just about does it for what a good iron fitting should go through. I think the biggest takeaway and advice that I could give you is that always make sure to test it before getting it and seeing the data, because what might work on paper or what ChatGPT tells you isn't always what's going to work in real life. So if you weren't quite understanding anything or you have any specific questions for me about an iron fitting, make sure to drop them in the comments and we can get that answered for you.